quite the group we have here. So I think let's kind of think about before the interview. So let's talk a little bit about kind of the resume and cover letter aspects of trying to just get that interview. So let's start off with talking about cover letters, because I know that's something that a lot of people have questions about. And I'm going to start with Antoinette here, because I want to know kind of like how important is a cover letter? How long should it be? Do people actually read them? How can you kind of stand out in your cover letter to kind of get to the next step?
Yeah, so cover letters are interesting because it really depends on the job that you're applying for. So if the job entails a lot of writing, especially for my roles in corporate communications where writing is very important, your cover letter really needs to be tailored properly, grammar needs to be on point, it really just needs to be very tight, succinct, and it really needs to showcase your writing style because the hiring managers are going to want to look at that. For production positions, not so much. Cover letters, really in production, we're looking at your reel. What work have you done? Can we see how you edit, how you cut a script, how you write a script, sorry. Those elements are very important. But if you are going to write a cover letter, it shouldn't be too long. You want to leave some aspects of how you're trying to market yourself for the interview. And recruiters and hiring managers really don't have a lot of time to read through a very, very long cover letter. You really just want to get to the point, articulate why you think you are the best fit for the position, what skills and experiences you can bring to the table, and really just end it off really clean and really tight. I do find people use blanket cover letters for a couple of positions. So also you want to make sure that you are updating your cover letter for whatever position you're applying for. If you're applying to a marketing assistant one day and I see a cover letter saying, I really am dying to be a marketing assistant because that's everything that I've ever wanted to be. And then tomorrow I see that you want to be a research analyst and your letter still says marketing assistant, or now it says you're dying to be a research analyst. It's really gonna, and I've seen it. Yes. It really can impact your chances for getting an interview because it could be seen that you don't really have a focus or that you're just trying to get your foot in the door, which is fine, but we really want top talent that can really benefit our business. And also another thing about cover letters is if you're going to send an email that is similar to your cover letter, then let the email be your introduction. I find that people will attach a cover letter to an email and then still embed a whole novel of information in the email. So it's really not necessary, in my perspective, to add both if you're going to present yourself in this body of the email versus writing a whole nother cover letter.
I think you hit the nail right on the head. We sort of work in similar industries. At Warner Music Group, I think it's exactly the same way. If you're looking at maybe our publishing or our licensing roles or our corporate communications, then we definitely look at cover letters. And I think I agree. It gets a little bit challenging and it makes me a little nervous, only because sometimes with cover letters, it'll be an amazing cover letter, but then the way you save the document is like Time Warner or it's like HBO, and I'm like, this is so great, but how can I forward this cover letter when it's not saved? It's just the minute things, but it's things that really do make an impact. So I think that in terms of cover letters, really pay attention to sort of the posting, because the posting will probably tell you cover letter required or preferred if they are looking for a cover letter. And I think that it can be a little bit tedious for recruiters to sort of go through so many cover letters, especially if they have so many recs open. I think that your resume really needs to be detailed and really tied to the job description of the posting that's on there. So.
Well, the art of communicating is know who your audience is, who you're writing to, how do they want to receive information, and what's the modern version of communicating. And nowadays it's in snippets and people work in bullets. So as mentioned before, no lengthy cover letters, just get to the point. I'm excited about your company. I'd like to add value and indicate how you're going to make a difference for them. Don't make it about yourself, make it about them. My background will help you, employer, do this and that. Keep it brief, keep it to the point, and then end with an action call to action. Please call me, I'll call you. Something action, don't say I hope to hear from you, that's not action oriented. So just say I'll call you or you call me. And please be impeccable, as was mentioned, with your spelling and typos. When I looked at resumes, I'm not kidding you, half went in the garbage because of typos and spelling errors, even from people who are English majors. So can't emphasize that enough. Yep. So.
Yeah, well, actually, talking about resumes, like, do you think it's important to have kind of an online presence where you can like lead people to see more things that you've done? Like, what should they have on a website or something like that? What looks good to you when you're getting other information from them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that your online presence nowadays just needs to be present. You need to have one, especially when you're out there actively looking for a job. I'm going to, as a recruiter, look at other ways to get more insight to your background before giving you that call or reaching out to you to come in to meet with me. LinkedIn is really a large part of my day. I think I have like 200 messages in my inbox waiting, but I go through, the messages, the invitations. I look at how detailed your LinkedIn profile is. If you are thinking about your presence and the perception of you and how you want to brand yourself. So I'm looking at your headshot, your photo. Is it too serious? Are you not focusing in the camera? What am I expecting to meet when I bring you in? And your online presence tells me a little bit about that. So if you have a portfolio, a reel, if you've worked on any amazing campaign or projects, you definitely want to embed that into your LinkedIn profile. And you also want to have your LinkedIn profile should somewhat link to your resume. Many times I will get resumes that are great, put together very well, and then I go to the LinkedIn profile and it either has different information or it doesn't connect. So you want to make sure that your online presence is definitely up to par. LinkedIn is a professional site, so you want to make sure that you are presenting yourself in a way that you want employers and recruiters to view you. It's not Facebook, it's not Twitter, it's not Instagram. It is really a professional networking site, and you want to really use that to your advantage. Websites, I think, are really important too, especially right now I'm looking for a creative director, and all the VPs of program marketing want to see is, have they edited big theatrical trailers, content? So we're looking for websites. You limit your chances in getting an interview if you don't have that presence, because it's expected depending on what industry you're in and what job you're applying for. So I think online presence is very important. Keep it neat, keep it professional as much as you can, because people are looking at it.
I definitely agree. Also, I think that we have to keep in mind too that sometimes recruiters, when we send off resumes to hiring managers, they're also looking and searching for you. So you have to be very careful as to what your online presence is, meaning Facebook and everything else, because all it takes is a simple Google search and whatever pops up. And I think that we have to be very careful and mindful as to what we have online. And yeah, I think LinkedIn is in. I mean, everyone's looking at your LinkedIn, who you're connected to. So definitely be mindful of that as well. And I think that, like you said, if you're definitely the more creative role, recruiters are seeing sort of like in your blogs too. What do you have posted? What sort of functions? What sort of projects have you been involved with? And also your volunteer work. What other projects have you been involved with as well?
Yeah, I share all the same. I saw someone do a video of themselves to present who they were, and that was creative. So, and that showed up on an online site. So, everything I share as far as being really careful about your image, but also, just as an idea to have a video of yourself. I thought it was kind of neat. Simple.
But how do you, everyone says, it's really hard if you just submit a resume and a cover letter online. A lot of the times you're not going to hear back. Kind of how do you find ways to find the right person, and how would you introduce yourself via email if you've never met anyone before? How do you do like a great cold call email?
As a candidate.
Or how do you find the right person basically to talk to? Do you want?
Actually, let's start with,
Sure.
maybe start Barry and we'll move down.
Well, you want to do what other people don't do, and you want to stand out. So don't write to HR. We used to call it human remains. But you want to write to as high up as you can. Now, I tell people, write to the CEO. Dick Fo was CEO of Lehman Brothers, and people would say, I'm not going to write to the CEO. No one writes to the CEO. Exactly. That's the way you write. So these senior guys, they don't get resumes. HR gets thousands of them. They don't. And they respect boldness. So write to them and say, I'd like to meet for coffee or talk on the phone. They'll be floored because they don't get that. Now, here's the trick. If the head of a department or the CEO forwards your resume to HR, which they will, HR optically sees a resume coming from the CEO and will immediately respond. And they have no idea where it came from. They think the CEO knows you, but they don't, but you don't. So everybody's running around bringing this person in when they didn't even know the CEO. So shoot high, write to the senior most people, but be cautious, tell them I already applied online so HR doesn't get ruffled, But write, shoot high, and be persistent. Just keep writing, keep calling, because what's the worst that can happen? And they respect boldness. Call them on the phone. I ran an ad. I said, no phone calls, please. 200 people applied. One girl called me. That's who I hired. Because she did what other people don't do. You have to stand out. And so that's my recommendation is find them. Public companies have to list the C-suite. C-suite is the CEO, the CFO. It's law. They have to list who they are. So you can find out who they are. It's not hard. And then write to them. And be creative. Find a way to find out who they are. Everyone's email is the same in a company. We all know that. It's whatever, dot, whatever. So write as high as you can. Same thing, call to action. Can we meet for coffee? Can I talk to you about a role in your company? So that's what I would recommend. Yeah.
Very true. I also think that when you do reach out and you do get that email, I think keep in mind that the person that you're reaching out to might be very busy. So you don't want to make it about you. So you don't want to say, I'm very interested in this XYZ opportunity. Maybe you'll start off by saying, hey, I'm really interested in what you do in the company. Maybe, if you have 3 or 5 minutes to chat about it, I'd love to get to know more about what you do. And then once you have that conversation, things can lead to sort of, any open roles and whatnot. Because I think if you go to LinkedIn and you write send an email, you're typically going to say, hey, I'm really interested in XYZ company, can we talk? And sometimes it might get bumped all the way down because there's 10,000 other, emails of the same thing. So, I think people always love to talk about themselves. So, and talk about what they do because they're very passionate about what they do. So, asking about what they do and sort of seeing what kind of value they add to the company to sort of gain insight and then kind of put your foot in the door so you can have a more casual conversation thereupon.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of those things. A couple things I do want to touch on. So literally last Wednesday, my VP sent me an email of a candidate or someone who reached out to the CEO, sent an email, and in the email, in bold letters, the second sentence said, I love your content, it's amazing. What you've done with Mad Men is awesome.
Oh no.
And if anyone knows anything about HBO content, we do not produce Mad Men. So that if you're going to reach out to the CEO, make sure that you've done your research on the company and that you know what we've done and you can point to it because that will definitely bump you to the very bottom of the list. Out, exactly. And people will share it and you'll be the person that didn't know the difference between Mad Men and Game of Thrones. I mean, that's just too much. So definitely do your research. I think when you're reaching out for either an informational or if you've seen a position that you're interested in and you think, okay, I don't want to send my resume through the black hole, it's going to get lost. Make sure, again, your resume is tight. Make sure that your introduction in the email or your message in the email points to that position if there is a specific role that you're interested in. Because like Barry said, if you send it to the CEO or any of our executive leaders in the C-suite, they will send it to us. They'll either send it, if you're interested in an internship, they'll send it to our manager of college recruiting, or they'll send it to me and say, hey, can you look into this? Is this role still open? Love the approach that this candidate, made, reaching out. Let's set up an informational or talk to them. And yes, we have to talk to you because it's coming from the CEO, our executive leadership. But again, we love talking to people that can fill our position. So it's even that much better when it comes from an executive and it's like the exact fit for what I'm looking for. I've been looking for weeks, and here you come, this amazing star quality candidate that said all the right things, resume is amazing, has an amazing online presence, and I can call you and pipeline you or get you in for an interview. So those are really important. Reaching out on LinkedIn, I've seen people reach out to our executives on LinkedIn and making a connection. Maybe it's someone that went to your school, or I have people, so I forgot to mention, I also am alum from NYU and I'm graduating in May, next month. So people reach out to me and they'll say, love to see that you went to NYU, would love to hear more about, your experience as a student and full-time employee at HBO. And I'm more than happy to, meet with people when, time permits. So I think it's fine to make that approach, just make sure that you have all the other things to back it up with.
Awesome. Okay, so now you guys have gotten the interview. You're ready to go in. So what do they wear? What is is it important to stand out? Do you want to just look, normally? How we're all kind of looking good today. So, yeah. So what do you think? Is it an important thing to kind of be different or?
I'll let Barry answer.
Well, it depends on what job you're interviewing for. But when in doubt, I would keep it simple and not too flashy. You want them to pay attention to you, not the clothes. You want them to see you coming in, not your clothes first. So, for a corporate role, for a banking role, make sure it's impeccable, make sure your clothes fit correctly, and make sure everything is ironed and all that, because they look for detail, and if you're not detailed in how you present yourself, it's going to be a bad inflection on you. So make sure everything is impeccable, and again, it depends on what you're interviewing for. But for women to have one nice piece, but nothing too flashy, not flashy earrings, and please tone down on the perfume. Nothing too out there. So that's important. So definitely be more on the conservative side. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, I think that what you wear definitely sets you aside because it's all about the fit. At least at Warner Music Group, it's really I want to say that maybe 70% is the interview. You have to nail the interview, and if you look the part, if you are an A&R and they're like, I see this dude walking down the hallway as the VP, we're gonna hire him because of just how he presented himself and what he was wearing. I think that it really does matter about what you wear, and I think you have to be very mindful. Even if it's the lower roles, if it's an assistant coordinator, you have to be very mindful. Don't be too flashy, but also you're going to a music company, so it might be a little bit laid back. So I think that definitely doing your research, asking questions, and I think it's okay to ask the recruiter, how should I come dressed? You sort of get the feel, but I think it's okay to do your research and sort of ask questions, but definitely be very mindful about what you wear.
No, that's such a great point, and I've actually never had anyone ask me what should I wear to the interview, and I would happily share that information because it is tricky. We are an entertainment media company. We have one overall culture, but the departments that make up HBO have different cultures within them. So finance and legal, you are going to find people dressing more conservatively. That's just the nature of what their business represents, right? Suits, corporate dresses, that sort of thing. Production, you may actually see someone wearing the outfit that I'm wearing right now, but I wouldn't wear this to work. I don't wear, only maybe on a Friday. So that's another thing. Companies have different dress codes, I would say. For the most part, business casual is really how people dress. But on Fridays, we have Jean Fridays. It's a little bit more laid back. Everyone usually wears jeans. It's not mandatory if you wear jeans on a Friday. If you don't wear jeans on a Friday, it's not weird, but most people do have on jeans. But I wouldn't wear this to an interview because my jacket is quite bright, right? So it's probably going to be very distracting to someone who I'm trying to make a first impression with, and I'm talking about my, skills and abilities. I want people to focus on what I have to say. I want people to, make eye contact with me. I don't want them to be making eye contact with my jacket or my cleavage or, my thighs or whatever. So you want to make sure you're a little bit more conservative. And it's funny, I find that the male candidates that I have coming in usually are dressed better than the women. And I think for women it's tough because there's so many options, right? You can wear whatever. You can wear top and pants. But I would say, we're a little bit more edgy in the sense that, you don't have to wear a button up and a jacket and pants. You can wear, I think it's even easier, to dress for an interview these days because they have so many sporty blazers and you can match that with a blouse and pants and a nice pair of heels. Just make sure it doesn't distract from what you're trying to, the message you're trying to send out, and dress professionally. So again, back to us being a media and entertainment company, I still don't want to see you wear jeans to an interview. That just gives me the impression that you didn't care or you didn't give much thought to how you're presenting yourself.
Awesome. Now let's talk about kind of interview do's and don'ts. So what is, maybe even give a story of an outstanding interview candidate and why they were so great, and maybe why someone didn't get the job and the biggest mistake that you've seen people make.
Joelle, do you want to start?
Sure. Let's see. I think that one of the most common mistakes that we get is getting the name wrong. And it's sort of like, oh man, they were so great, and it's like, a lot of companies have Warner in it. So when you say Time Warner, we're just like, oh man, we're not the cable company, but it's okay. We'll still talk to you. So definitely, just be very, detail oriented and really, do your research. I think be very mindful because recruiters are listening to these things. So I think that being very detail oriented and getting the name right.
Well, having interviewed over 10,000 people, as far as what people do wrong, I could write a book and go on. Someone asked me to leave, their cell phone rang in the middle of the interview, they asked me if they could take the call and leave my office. I've had people show up in sneakers, I've had someone say they were convicted of a crime, and several people say that, and I've seen everything you can even imagine. So as far as what to do wrong, there's a lot, and getting the name of the company wrong is another big one. As far as doing right, what you really want to show is how you're going to add value and make a difference for the company. So I mentioned it before, make it about them, not about you, and really have an understanding of it, have commercial knowledge. Commercial knowledge means how do they make money? Because it's America, and I know it sounds harsh, but that's what all companies are concerned about in America, is making money. So how are you going to contribute to the bottom line? How are you going to help them and bring all your experience to help them? So make it about them. That's what's very important. And be prepared. And prepared means, I don't mean study the company, try to impress them with, your net asset value. But what do they do for a company? How do they make money? And how you can make a difference. Study, everything is in the job description. What they're looking for, what they want from you is all in print. So study it. And I always say, read the job description and believe you're already doing the job. Because if you believe you're doing it, they'll believe you can do it. So believe you're already in the role. I used to tell entry level, you want to be a vice president, act like one. So when you go on the interview, believe you're already doing the job. And be prepared. And practice, practice, practice. But don't come across practice. So the thing with college students, they used to be stiff like robots. Be a real person. Talk like a normal person. This is how normal people talk. So don't talk like a robot in the interview. Talk like a normal person. And they want a personable, they want to see enthusiasm. And they want to know you want to work for the company for the right reason, to help that company, because you believe in their business model and what they're trying to accomplish, and that you have the skills to make a difference. So, and as I said, be enthusiastic and listen very carefully to the interviewer. Make it about them.
Yeah, I agree with all of those points. There's so many things that candidates do in interviews that they probably don't realize are distracting again, or are just fundamental, basic interviewing things that you should do, like coming prepared with questions. HBO is such an amazing brand. It's like, how do you not have questions about our business if you really want to be a part of it? Drinking while you're in the interview is also distracting. We are having a conversation, but we're not at lunch. I mean, I'm interviewing you, you're making an impression. I've had people who are just like so tied to that coffee that they have and they won't let it go. They won't just throw it in the trash. And I'm just like, get rid of it. You don't need it. It's not necessary. I think the things that stand out to me when candidates come in for interviews is what Barry said, doing your research. We are on the brink of a revolutionary business venture, HBO Now. It surprises me when people say, oh my God, I live for HBO and I want to, be a marketing assistant or a digital analyst or a producer, but you have no opinion about HBO Now or a perspective or an idea to share in the interview. It really diminishes your candidacy. And again, it's just tying back to the business. What can you do for our business that we may not be doing, or that you as a consumer have identified would be great for us to venture out into? So doing your research, you can't do it enough when you're coming into the interview. But definitely ask questions. Just make them up. I mean, you can Google questions to ask for an interview. It's kind of foolproof, really, that you should come in having questions. And if you're really engaged in the interview, the questions will come anyway. And those are the types of interviews that I really, really appreciate, and definitely can give my own recommendation or referral to that candidate when they're going to their next interview.